Hello, everybody, and welcome in. We are so excited that you are joining us today. We're just going to give everybody a few moments to get situated. So now is a great time to grab some coffee or water, grab a seat, and we will be back in a few minutes to start this great demo for you. But until then, please hang tight. Thanks for your patience. If you're just entering right now, welcome. We're just going to give everybody about one more minute to come into the meeting, and then we will get started. Thanks so much. All right, looks like we are ready. So thank you so much, everybody, again for joining this weekly demo. We're super excited for you. And at this point, we are going to turn it over to our speakers.
Thank you, Madison, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to this week's demo. I'm going to be presenting myself first, and then I'm going to let Andrew do his own presentation. My name is Francis Gibernaut. I am part of the Adversary Research Team and leader of the Cyber Threat Intelligence project. And today's presentation is going to be divided into two main sections. The first one, presented by me, will be an intelligence debriefing on North Korea as a country that is home to several groups of adversaries and why it is relevant to our clients. Also on the three adversaries that we chose to emulate on this occasion, with a strong emphasis on their motivation and historical objectives. And finally, on the activities that we researched, which resulted in 13 pieces of content that AttackIQ released between December 2022 and January 2023. The second and final section will be presented by Andrew. We'll focus on explaining how the AttackIQ platform works, culminating in the presentation of a live demo on a couple of the previously mentioned pieces of content, with a strong detail on the different scenarios that we use to emulate those activities, and giving an overview of the results and the sections of the same. Starting with the introduction of North Korea as a host to multiple adversarial groups, it is one of the top 4 players that engages in cyber attacks, with major offensive cyber capabilities alongside China, Russia, and Iran. It is worth mentioning that the North Korea does not host the most adversaries nor the most innovative ones, but it does have very sophisticated, long-standing adversaries with well-defined motivations and objectives. Can we jump into the following slide, please? Alrighty. So North Korea as a country, it is home to 5 known adversaries, and these are the Lazarus Group and its 2 subgroups, BlueNoroff and Andariel, APT-37, and Kim Suki. In this opportunity, we will be presenting the contents released for the first 3 groups, which we selected due to their higher relevance for all regions and industries in the world. So we are starting with Lazarus. Next slide, please. Seems kind of laggy, sorry about that. So we we will be beginning with the most infamous of adversaries. In this case, this is Lazarus. Lazarus is a state-sponsored adversary attributed to the Reconnaissance General Bureau of North Korea and has been active since at least 2009. The adversary's main motivation are financial gain, political espionage, sabotage, and destruction. The group first came to media attention in 2013 following a series of coordinated attacks against South Korean media and financial entities using the wiper known as Dark Soul. In November 2014, Lazarus conducted a large-scale attack against Sony Pictures Entertainment, which was notable due to the substantial penetration through the network, the large amount of infiltrated data, and the use of a wiper to erase all forensic evidence. In response to this attack in February 2016, a coalition of private security industry partners, led by Novera, launched Operation Blockbuster, a counterintelligence operation created to understand and disrupt the malicious tools and infrastructure used by Lazarus during this destructive wiper attack. Based on the activities investigated, we concluded that over the past few years, Lazarus has attacked at least 28 nations worldwide and has impacted 11 of the 16 sectors that AttackIQ currently recognizes. Jumping into the content that we released regarding Lazarus, we started with the most recent one, which is the Magic Rat plus Tiger Rat activity. It was reported by Cisco Talos on September 2022, and they discovered a new remote access Trojan called Magic Rat, which was found on victims initially compromised through the exploitation of publicly exposed VMware Horizon platforms. Researchers also found that Magic Rat's C2 infrastructure was used to host variants of a known implant, of an implant named Tiger Rat, which is associated to Lazarus subgroup Andariel, who used it during Operation By Tiger in September 2021. The second activity that we emulated is the Threat Needle campaign that took place from mid-2020 to early 2021, in which Lazarus conducted a COVID-19 based phishing campaign against victims located in the defense industrial base and technology sectors. An interesting detail on this activity was how the adversary overcame network segmentation by gaining access to an internal router machine and using it as a proxy server, allowing them to exfiltrate stolen data from the intranet network to their remote server. Following that, we have Operation Dream Shop, which is an activity that has two variants based on the waves detected by Symantec and Clear Sky. This operation took place from early 2020 to mid-2022, in which researchers observed an attack carried against professionals in the defense sector and government organizations with fake job offers that are allegedly sent from some of the most prominent defense and aerospace companies, such as Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Airbus. After that, we have Operation Interception, discovered in June 2022, when researchers observed Lazarus targeting victims by social engineering via LinkedIn. The adversary was offering attractive but bogus job offers in order to establish an initial foothold. Besides malware, the adversaries made use of living off the land tactics by abusing legitimate tools and Windows utilities. Finally, we have Operation Sharpshooter, which is an activity that took place in October 2018, in which Lazarus targeted more than 80 organizations worldwide, while focuses on the financial services, energy resources and utilities, and the defense industrial base sectors. After this, we are going to be jumping into one of Lazarus' subgroups, which is called BlueNoroff. BlueNoroff is a financially motivated adversary that has shown particular interest in the past in Swift software, short for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication Software, and it currently targets financial institutions, financial trading software development companies, cryptocurrency exchanges, and trading companies, as well as decentralized finance protocols, also known as DeFi protocols. The adversary is notorious for the attack against the Bangladesh Central Bank in February 2016, when the adversary created fraudulent SWIFT transactions for more than $850 million. Their technical procedures were undetected, and it was only a small spelling mistake that foiled their plans and ultimately flagged the transactions for manual review. Based on the activities investigated, we can assume that BlueNoroff has targeted at least 57 countries in the last few years, spread over 6 regions, mainly targeting the financial and technology sectors. Based on all of this, we ended up creating 4 new pieces of content, starting with the Snatch Crypto campaign. The Snatch Crypto campaign is an activity that took place during 2021 and early 2022, in which the adversary was observed attacking successful cryptocurrency startups with the objective of carrying out fund theft. This activity has two distinct variations, one using a weaponized Word document as an initial access, while the second uses a shortcut file for the same purpose. After that, we have the Far Eastern International Bank SWIFT attack, which is an activity that took place in October 2017, in which BlueNoroff attacked a commercial firm in Taiwan and attempted to move funds from accounts to multiple overseas beneficiaries. Finally, we have the Southeast Asian and European bank attacks, which are a series of attacks identified by Kaspersky in February 2017 against SWIFT systems of a Southeast Asian bank in August 2016 and a European bank in January 2017. During this time, BlueNoroff showed particular interest against SWIFT systems, investigated in detail the functioning of the various pieces of software used by the system in order to create patches to bypass security controls. After this, we have the last subgroup that composes Lazarus, which is called Andariel. Andariel is a politically motivated adversary suspected of operating in support of North Korea's Reconnaissance General Bureau. The adversary shows particular interest in collecting intelligence primarily from South Korean government agencies and military organizations. Andariel has shown particular interest in cyber espionage attacks for intelligence gathering against mainly South Korean government agencies and military organizations. During 2018, Andariel was observed using an ActiveX zero-day vulnerability against targets in South Korea by using watering hole attacks on South Korean websites for the purpose of conducting reconnaissance activities during an operation codenamed Golden Axe. However, since at least 2021, Andariel has also been seeking financial gain through attacks that leverage customized ransomware during the final phase of activity. This is why in July 2022, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency of the United States issued an alert in conjunction with the FBI and the Department of the Treasury, detailing historical attacks against US-based healthcare and public health organizations through the use of malware ransomware, the same malware family used by Andariel. During the last activities, we can assume that Andariel has targeted at least 15 nations in 5 regions of the world and has impacted a total amount of 10 out of 16 sectors. With this in mind, we ended up researching 3 different pieces of activity. The first one is called the ransomware campaign against South Korea, which is an activity that took place in April 2021. During this activity, Andariel used malicious Word documents that contain a non-familiar macro that uses novel techniques to implant the next payload. Researchers discovered 2 infection methods used in these attacks, where each payload has its own loader for execution in memory. Andariel only delivered the final stage payload for selected victims. After that, we have the malware ransomware campaign, which is an emulation in response to the activities detailed by the US Threat Alert AA22-187A and a report published by Kaspersky in August 2022. During these activities, Andariel made use of malware ransomware, a ransomware uniquely associated with this group that impacted multiple countries and regions around the world. Finally, we have the Operation by Tiger, which is an activity that took place in September 2021 and was reported by the Korean CERT. During this activity, Andariel attacked South Korean entities with 2 previously unknown pieces of malware. With this being said, I believe that the intelligence debriefing is complete, and I'm going to hand the mic to Andrew. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you, Francis. So just a quick introduction from myself. I'm Andrew Habibi Parker. I'm the Technical Director for the Europe and Middle East and Africa sides of the AttackIQ business. So I'm going to take you through some of the content that Francis has just walked through to show you how we can actually test those threat actor tactics, techniques, and procedures within your environment. Before I do that, I want to talk a bit about AttackIQ so you get a picture of how we do things and what capabilities we have. So first and foremost, we're heavily aligned to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And as most certain cybersecurity companies are these days, we have a lot of content, but we're slightly more aligned than most in the fact that we're actually a founding research partner of the Center for Threat Informed Defense. So this is a MITRE Ingenuity organization. It's actually a consortium of profit and non-profit organizations that we're a part of. So we're actually both help fund and help further the research with resources with those research projects. So we're very instrumental into that process, and we're very proud of the participation that we have with the MITRE Ingenuity Centre for Threat Informed Defence and our partners in that community. Now we cover a whole range of attack scenarios, everything from initial access through to impact, and you can see the kill chain there. We have a huge range of content, which I'll show you in the platform as we go through. We actually provide several ways of testing against those either threat actor campaigns or specific tactics, techniques, and procedures that you want to test in your environment. Or you might be interested in testing a particular security control. Now, the testing modalities we have are the three that we have on the screen here. So we have atomic testing. So that's very much a traditional way of testing with a breach and attack simulation tool. So it's allowing you to run a series of tactics, techniques, or procedures, or what we term scenarios in our platform. And you can run through a list of those, but there's no link between those scenarios when you run them. So for example, you run a scenario, the output or the result of one scenario doesn't affect what the next scenario does. So it's your traditional way of testing. AttackIQ, we go further than that with our attack graph capability. And this is the content that Francis has just talked about. So this is actually emulating the threat actor behavior through the kill chain and the various stages that that threat actor went through to achieve their campaign objectives. And this allows us to make decisions as we flow through the attack graph. So for example, if we run a technique and that technique is prevented by a security control, we can, like the threat actor, decide whether we try a variation on that particular technique, or whether we move on to the next technique in the operation. So attack graphs, very visual. I'll show you one as an example, or several as we go through, and I think you'll really like that. And then with the final third way of testing is PCAP replay. So this is our boundary posture management capability. Very unique in the fact that we're able to replay PCAPs between any two of our test points within your organization to be able to see whether we can replay that malicious PCAP traffic. And of course, we do all of this in a safe manner. We're safe to run in production at scale. So this has some unique capabilities. We can provide you what we call a hosted agent on the internet to allow you to run that content from the internet into your organization to see if it can bypass those boundary devices. And we can also replay internal to external to that hosted agent to test that command and control and data exfiltration type scenarios. And if you've gone down or looking to go down the zero trust route, as I'm sure many of you are investigating, one of the zero trust branches is micro-segmentation. We can also test those micro-segmentation technologies to see if we can replay traffic internally between boundaries. So really cool technology. Now we cover a lot of security controls and we can verify many security controls in your environment. You can see just a subset of technologies there. And the real key part of the platform is the metrics you get out of it, the intelligence that we provide. We've got a whole range of dashboards. I'll show you some in the demo next. That's the key, actually being able to use the actionable intelligence to really achieve your aims of improving your cybersecurity posture. And then business outcomes, clearly, putting in a dollar figure or a pound or euro or whatever currency you have figure to your cybersecurity investments and what return you're having on those investments is a key part of what we need to achieve in the cybersecurity space. And with AttackIQ, we can certainly do that. These figures are from an IDC report that was run just at the end of last year. So we've got all of that evidence that you can utilize and also build your own business value use case. So let's dive into a live demo. Always a fun thing to do. So let me just end the slideshow a second. And hopefully you can see the AttackIQ dashboard there. So one of our dashboards we have in the platform, we've got many. As I said, it's metrics that are key, right? So if you look at this, this is a threat assessment dashboard, and we're able to show you what was prevented or not prevented, or detected or not detected from the techniques that we ran in your environment. So from the various threat groups here. So where I say prevented, it's a very simple concept. We have test points that we deploy strategically around your environment. And that test point has one objective and one objective only, and that is to run the tactics, techniques, or procedures, or as I mentioned, scenarios in your environment and try to achieve the objective of that TTP. If it can, then it's marked as not prevented, meaning a security control has not prevented that TTP. Or conversely, if it is prevented, it can't run to its conclusion, it will be marked as prevented. So a security control has done its job. And then we have another key concept, which is detection. And detection is, great, we've run the technique on the test point. Now go and look for the evidence within your security controls of that attack that we ran. So we'll actually query your security controls both directly and via your SIEM platform, so your security information and event management platform, to look for that key evidence that we generated as part of that attack. And because we're in the attack, we know of all of those artifacts. And then we'll present that in our dashboards reports to give you that intelligence. So let's have a look at some of the content that's aligned to the threat groups that that Francis talked about there. So Lazarus, Andariel, and BlueNoroff. So where I've just gone is our assessment template library. So we've got a whole range of assessment templates here. And you can see Lazarus, Andariel, BlueNoroff. We track US cert announcements as well. So we've got a whole range of content. And I'm going to just dive into the Magic Rat and Tiger Rat, purely because I like saying Magic Rat and Tiger Rat. It's a great title. So I'm going to dive into there, and I'm going to create an assessment. So this is what you would do in AttackIQ if you wanted to run this campaign. So I'm going to click Create Assessment. You can see the description, as Francis talked about, you know, the Talios blog there. We give you the link, gives you information about how you should run this and what its objectives were. So I'm going to create assessment, and that's going to create a new assessment for me to run. It's going to drop me into the setup screen, and you'll see here, this is the attack graph capability. As I mentioned, the ability to test in a more accurate way and emulate the threat actor campaigns in a more accurate way. And not only that, being able to test the more behavioral technologies that are out there on the market today. You know, the EDRs of this world, where they're looking for certain behaviors to trigger before they raise an event or alarm. So you need to test in a different way to fully exercise those technologies. So an attack graph is a flow of scenarios linked together, or a series of scenarios linked together would be a better term. So we start at step 0. So this is the Magic Rat and Tiger Rat. So we're looking at remote access Trojans here. So the first step in the Lazarus Group campaign in this particular one was to try and download the magic rat sample to memory. So with this attack graph, we're going to actually run this, and it's going to exercise a number of technologies. And in this case, it's going to test content filtering, network firewalls, for example, in order to see if we can get that through that network defense. Now you'll see these two lines, so if not prevented and if prevented. So it depends whether, if this technique was successful in achieving its objective, meaning it wasn't prevented by security control, it's going to take this path here, where it's going to try and take that same magic rat sample and save it to the file system. And that's going to exercise your EDR type technologies. So we're writing it to the file system. We would expect those technologies to pick that piece of malware up. But if it is prevented, so if a security control stops the initial download of that magic rat sample to memory, it's going to go and take this route through to the if prevented and try to do persistence through the scheduled task. So you can see how this is built up. If the magic rat sample was either prevented or not, it's just going to go through to the next stage. So it's really powerful in emulating the threat active behavior. So once we've done that through the scheduled task, we're actually going to try to do it through the schedule folder or startup folder in this case, if that's prevented. And if that particular technique is prevented, it's going to end the attack graph because we've effectively ended the threat actor campaign fairly early in the kill chain here. But if not, it's going to continue on. In this case, emulating the threat actor behavior, they do an initial CT request to a command and control environment infrastructure they have to make a contact to there, and then follow on and bring other information down from that infrastructure that they can use. And obviously call home to say that the machine has been compromised or the environment has been compromised. So I'm not going to go through every scenario here. You get a good idea. We start moving into discovery as a threat actor would. Start looking at the infrastructure, trying to map out where your critical assets are, network discovery and configuration discovery, trying to get to your critical assets at the end of the day to find the information they want to either exfiltrate or ransomware. And it goes through until it gets to ultimately the end, if you can get all the way through to the end with your security controls. It may prevent that, or it may not. So that's the attack graph in highlights. So what I'm going to do now is actually show you one that's being run. So the magic rat campaign that's been run through. And it's very easy to run these through, by the way. It's just a case of selecting your assets that you want to run it on. So I'll quickly show you. So I'm just going to pick two assets here, one a Microsoft Defender and one CrowdStrike. Once I've done that, that's all I need to do. No more configuration required. In this case, it's ready to run, and I can run that straight away. Now, we are a continuous security validation platform, so by definition, you want to run this on a regular basis. And you can do that very easily with the schedule. So if you want to manage this on a hourly, daily, couple of times a week schedule, monthly, you have that ability to schedule it on that cadence of your choosing and at the time of your choosing as well. And if you use the schedule, then you do get some great capabilities for proactive notifications. So once you run this assessment and it's on a schedule, we build a last run pass rate. So say my pass rate was 95%. If the next time it runs on that schedule and it falls below that threshold, then I can be notified by the system automatically via email, Slack message, Jira ticket, so we can create that ITSM ticket automatically. Same for ServiceNow, or an AWS Security Hub message. So really, really cool. So let me show you the results of one of these attack graphs. So I'll pick this one here. So this is one I ran earlier. So we got some results. We can see this was not prevented, but it has got detection results. So I'm going to go and click on summary. And you'll see here there's a historical run result. So if I've run this on that schedule and I've got lots of results, it's actually going to build a picture of the historical percentage scores of the detection, prevention, and a combined score we derive from that. So you get a good picture over time of whether this particular campaign is being prevented or detected in its entirety over time to give you that confidence and visibility. Now we have the result down here. So this has to be run under the user system privilege for this particular campaign. And we can see we got, wasn't prevented, but we will have some prevention results, but in its entirety wasn't prevented. And we do have detection results as well. So I'm going to drill into that. And you'll see we'll provide you the visual representation of each of the steps and which path it took through, i.e. was it prevented or not prevented. So we can see here at step 0, clearly not prevented. Step 1, not prevented. So it's taken this path because we're going the not prevented route. If we look a bit further, have I got any prevented? Yes, I do. I've got one here where it actually prevented that that particular tiger rat sample to memory. And if it was prevented, we tried to do some system information discovery, which was not prevented. So this was run on a Microsoft Defender for Endpoint hosted machine. Just a caveat, this is a lab environment, so don't take these as results for the effectiveness of Microsoft Defender or any of these technologies. Got to put that disclaimer there because this is a lab environment and the results will be a slightly odd because we want to make it visually appealing and to run through this particular attack graph all the way through to the end. So you see the different steps. We actually have the results for each of these steps down below. You can see step 0 all the way through to step 22, if I just expand that, or 23 in this case. So we've got a huge amount of data here. So I'm going to just step you through one of these so you understand how it works. So we'll go for something simple to start with. So persistence through scheduled tasks. So trying to keep persistence on a machine, even if it's rebooted, by using the Windows scheduled task capability, which is obviously inbuilt into Windows. So this was not prevented, but we can see we've got some detections. So both Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Defender for Endpoint via Sentinel, so the SIEM. So I'm going to expand that out. So for each of these steps, we give you full visibility of how this scenario played out. So you can see some detailed findings here. So the scheduled task, we said it was not prevented because the test point was able to run this technique all the way through to its conclusion. And we can see, yep, it was successfully created at that time and executed. I can click the activity details, and that's going to give me more information of how this ran and how the test point concluded this scenario. So we can see the scheduled task was dynamically scheduled. It was executed, and we can see the batch file that we're using to add that into the scheduled task. That's to gain the keep the persistence. So obviously it's going to run that batch script once the system reboots or runs this task on the scheduled date and time. We scheduled the task. We waited 69 seconds before checking if the scheduled task was successfully executed. We validated it was, and then we executed the command. And then finally we tidied up, so removed the scheduled task. We always clean up after the effect to make sure the system's back in the state that we left it in. So if we wrote any registry keys, for example, or any files to the file system, we'll clean those up. So we can see this was not prevented. The test point did its job, ran that scenario all the way through to its conclusion. If I look at detection details, I can actually see I've got a range of detections. So we saw Defender. It's no surprise, we're running on a machine with the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint agent on there. So if I start there, we can see here that, yeah, Defender did detect it, but it didn't prevent it in this case. So it detected this as a suspicious task scheduler activity. So we've gone and queried Defender directly because we've got an integration into Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And that's the same with Sentinel. We've queried the source types that are going into Sentinel, and we've picked up the device process events here and the Defender logs going into Sentinel. So Sentinel being that SIEM platform. Now the great thing here is we give you the intelligence, but we don't stop there. So if I click on more information, that is going to take me directly to the event within Microsoft, the Microsoft Security Center there. It's not going to offer me in because I'm logged in as a different account, but get the idea. It's going to take me to the alert. And we do that for many of our technologies that we integrate with. So you don't have to do that swivel chair analysis. So you don't have to copy information from the AttackIQ dashboard or interface and then go to your other technology or write it down on a notepad. We make it very easy and integrated for you. And then we also show you the evidence or the information we used to correlate this event. So this is an important piece of the puzzle because we want to give you complete transparency about how we found this detection within the technology and which bits of information we used to find it. So you can see here the observables or indicators in this case that we used were the file hashes and the process and file name that we used to query Defender that came back with this result. And that's a really powerful thing to know. It removes any ambiguity as to, you know, how did you find this event? What bits of information did you use? Yeah, we provide that in a very simple interface and easy to understand way. And then if we look at one of the Sentinel findings, we can see here we've got alert table evidence. So we're querying the alert table here. We can see schedule task.exe. If we click on the view more information, we'll provide the raw log of that event from the SIEM platform. That's optional. You may or may not want to do that. It's entirely up to you. In this case, we can look through this log and see, yeah, this relates to AttackIQ in this instance, and we can look for the evidence of that file name that will be in there somewhere. I'm just going blind, but yeah, it's in there somewhere. And that's just closed, but because of my mouse, so just bear with me, people. So if I just go back in to, there you go, it's hiding up there. So back to detections. So great amount of information and visibility into how this test ran and also those detections. So how the technologies reacted when it saw that activity. So a couple of other tabs on here. So we don't only give you that evidence, we actually help you mitigate those findings. So we give you the intelligence to help close that gap. So in this case, this was not prevented. So it could be a configuration change that's required on the EDR, the Microsoft Defender in this case, or it might be something you need to do on the Windows file system or Windows operating system to stop the scheduled tasks from being run. So in this case, we've got a number of recommendations: locking execution of sensitive files, ensuring you've got an EDR and that it's configured properly. That's all well and good. Through to monitoring the creation or update of scheduled tasks. So we're giving you detailed information on how to do that within Windows via SecVol, how you can audit that, which event IDs you can audit, so you can take those actions, and also external links that provide further information to do that. And specific recommendations in here, prevent or monitor creations through scheduled-task.exe, which is something you definitely want to do. And then just finally, to wrap up this piece, is the observables. So because we're running the attack, we know all of those artifacts of the attack. So if we're running something across the network, for example, we'll have source and destination ports, IP addresses, domains, URLs, or it could be file hashes, as you've seen, command lines, executables. We provide all of that intelligence in STIX format. So if you want to use this for detection engineering purposes, you can absolutely do so. You've got the command lines, you've got the file hashes, you can take that and put those into your tools that can ingest that information to help protect yourself and build that detection engineering capability. So wealth of information. The great thing about AttackIQ is the openness, transparentness, and the configurability of the platform. So we have all of these scenarios in the platform, as you've seen in the scenarios here. You can configure these, you can create your own. We have a whole scenario library, which is the part that I'll just quickly show you now, with that content in. And if you want to create your own attack graph, that's very easy as well. We give you that ability. We can give you a blank canvas and you just drag and drop the scenarios and link them together however you want. So very powerful, but built in a way that's very user-friendly. Like the scenario library as well, if you're looking to test maybe something from the MITRE ATT&CK tactics, command and control, for example, we've got a wealth of techniques that you can utilize. And if I just take DNS messaging, messenger, PowerShell communication, if I just open one of these scenarios, you can see the types of content. So the scenario description is great intelligence if you don't know or you've never seen this type of scenario before and you want to understand how it works and why it's used and what its purpose is. You have a great resource there. So it's a great learning platform. You can see what technologies this will exercise, so what it will test, and also directly the technologies you've integrated with, so you can understand ahead of time which technologies in your stack will be exercised with this scenario. We tag everything in the platform, so threat groups, Lazarus, BlueNoroff, APT29, whoever it may be, we tag the content so you can quickly search for that content via threat actor or MITRE ATT&CK tactic, technique, or sub-technique ID, along with which security controls this will exercise. Scenarios have parameters, so we give you full access to modify this if you want to change it in any way, shape, or form, as well as the power to actually download the source code for the scenario. So if you want to be a real power user and modify the source code for the scenario to do something different, you have that complete ability. But not only that, because we're safe to run in a production environment, don't expect you to just trust us with that. If you want to verify that, you have the ability to look at the source code. It's in Python. You can look at it. We give you our Python classes to use as well. And then finally, Just mitigations are in the scenarios as well, so you can look at those mitigations ahead of time. We'll give you indicators if we can, and the MITRE alignment as well. Good. So we're almost at time, so I'm just going to pop back to the slides a second. And I'm just going to give you some last few bits of information around content. So Francis and the team are part of the adversarial research team. We've got a great resource on our AttackIQ website there under attackiq.com/research, where all of our information is published. So it's great to subscribe to that. It's a fantastic resource, and there's always new content going on to there. And then our marketing team are brilliant at content, providing content that's really useful. So whether you're an aspiring CISO or you have participated or want to participate into our AttackIQ Academy, it's a free learning platform for all, you can sign up there and you'll get access to learning paths, as you can see there, from operationalizing the MITRE attack framework through to gap analysis, foundations of purple teaming and beyond. And we also have our podcasts, our YouTube channel, great resources on there, previous web demos as well. So if you want to go back through those, along with our Purple Hats conference, so from 2021, 2022, and we've got a new one coming up in April, our Purple Hats conference. So if you're interested in that, feel free to sign up. And from that, I think we're at time. So thank you very much. Madison, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining, and we hope that this was helpful. Again, you can always reach out to us here at AttackIQ, or specifically reach out to Francis or Andrew. But at this point, this concludes our demo. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.